Welcome everyone to another installment of WFCF TV, the Florida Chamber Foundation video podcast program. Today we're privileged to have Dr. Sean Snaith, who is the Executive Director of the University of Central Florida's Institute for Economic Competitiveness. Sean, I want to thank you for spending time with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Sean, it's probably a good start for our conversation today to give the folks that are watching some sense of what happens at the University of Central Florida, the Institute for Economic Competitiveness, and what you do in that kind of creating the buzz around the hot topic of the economy right now.
Sure. I'm an economics professor at the University of Central Florida and director of the Institute for Economic Competitiveness. And what we do there primarily is produce quarterly economic forecasts. Each quarter we produce two forecast publications. One is a comprehensive forecast of the U.S. economy, GDP, labor markets, employment by industry, financial markets, trade, and so forth. And those forecasts are included in a number of national forecasting panels, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, survey of top economists, the Bloomberg, Reuters, Livingston survey, survey of professional forecasters out of the Philadelphia Federal Reserve. So that's the primary thing we do at a national level. Those forecasts then get incorporated into our state level forecasts, and I describe the forecasting methodology as being similar to those Russian or Ukrainian nesting dolls, where you take off the big one and inside is a smaller doll and a smaller doll inside of that. The big doll for us is the U.S. forecast, and I spent a lot of time revising that and refining that, and once we're done with it, pull drivers from that model down into the state level model, and we work on producing a Florida forecast. We also, in that Florida forecast publication, produce forecasts for 12 metro areas around the state, and those are the smaller dolls still. So once we finalize that Florida forecast, then we get to work on the individual metro forecasts. And I have students that provide some assistance, they do research, they analyze what's happening in each of the economies of those metros, and we use that information both to shape our forecast, but also to provide a little color to the tables of data and the graphs that we provide. So if someone's not familiar with the Tampa or Miami metro or Jacksonville, they can get synopsis of some of the stories that have been important for that economy in the quarter that forecast is produced. So those two publications are really our primary output. I do a lot of public speaking. I also do a lot of interaction with the media.
So that kind of work has to attract a lot of attention, not only to the Institute, but also to you personally. Do you work with municipalities and those types of folks on a consulting basis as well?
Sure. I've been a long-time consultant. I do consulting for municipalities, state, local governments, for private companies. I do a lot of speaking, keynote speeches at different associations around the nation, and so I weave that in during my free time, I guess, which seems to be getting less and less as the time goes on.
Those of us that operate within the economic analysis world are fascinated by what's happening in the last 5 years. Unfortunately, that is creating a lot of pain for our fellow Floridians and citizens across the country. One of the things that we always talk about, at least in the foundation circle, is benchmarking and forecasts and metrics and measures. Can you give our folks some sense of why really forecasts and benchmarks are important at all, and really what the difference between the two might be?
Well, benchmarking is a way to gauge yourself and compare yourself relative to some other set of peers, and it's a way to assess basically what your performance is and any progress that you've made. Forecasting is more forward-looking. What does the future hold? What will happen to the unemployment rate? And I mean, right now, of course, with as high as the unemployment rate is in Florida, projections about employment and job creation, I think, are going to be near and dear to people's hearts. I mean, we live, and those of us that are fortunate enough to work in the economy are impacted every day by the swings in the housing market. We've seen home equity just get cut in half for a lot of Floridians. Financial markets have been volatile. So there's a lot of things that really just affect how we live our lives when it comes to the economy and what's happening both nationally, globally, and here in the state of Florida. So yes, it tends to be dry, and sometimes people will glass over when someone's speaking about it. I try to mitigate that. I use a lot of metaphor, anecdote, whatever I can to engage the audience that I'm addressing, and to try to convey some of these important things that they can take away. They don't have to be a technical person, they don't have to have a Ph.D. in economics, but help them to understand in language that, that they can digest and then use in their personal lives.
And Sean, we're catching you today fresh off the very first meeting of the Florida Chamber Foundation's Econometrics Council, and wanted to get your perspective on having met with your peers and seen now the work that is ahead of us, the challenges that the state is facing. What your thoughts and perspective might be on really the role of the Econometrics Council and the Florida Chamber Foundation as we develop a strategic plan looking at the years 2015 and 2030 as critical milestones for our state's evolving economy.
Well, I think I'm walking away more impressed than I thought I would be. I've been in a number of similar groups that don't seem to have the focus, don't seem to have the larger framework in place that the foundation does, with a big set of goals and a well-developed, well-thought-out process that we're able to, kind of come in and help. Hang some drywall on that frame and help shape what it's ultimately going to look like, and hopefully provide something in the end, or help the foundation provide something in the end that has been critically missing, I think, from Florida's discussion and planning and thinking about the future here. You can't just do it from election to election. There really needs to be a cohesive, comprehensive, longer range plan in place, because the characters change. They change with every election. They change with every birth and death. We need something more consistent that can guide us into the future. And we're at a critical time in Florida's history and in terms of changes that are afoot right now. Funny thing happened on the way to the recovery. Everything changed in Florida. The demographics are changing. It's becoming more complex. Florida's role in the national and international and global economies are evolving very quickly, and it's important to have some sort of rudder that this ship can be guided by, and I think ultimately this is what this study will provide, and it's outside of the larger influences from special interests or politics. So it's something that I think ultimately will have the credibility that I think is really critical in any piece of work like this, because if it's some special interest group that's whipped up this to benefit their interests, people see that and see through it, and it doesn't have the credibility of this. I think hard work of the foundation and the bit that we can contribute here with the Econometrics Council, I think is going to pass that test, and it will be something I think that will benefit our children and their children, hopefully.
Well, Sean, we appreciate you taking time with us. And folks, again, keep an eye on the Florida Chamber Foundation's Econometrics Council. More to come and more information available at our website, www.flfoundation.org. For now, this is Dale Brill, and we look forward to seeing you next time.